Trillions of dollars pouring into AI. Companies scrambling to buy every AI coding tool on the market. Developers, they're claiming 80% productivity gains. Why CEOs, they believe the future is here, that AI will finally solve the software crisis. But there is just one problem. What if I told you that coding isn't the bottleneck? What if the data shows developers spend only 10 to 39% of their time actually writing code? And that percentage has been dropping for the last 30 years. What if AI is making us code faster in a system designed to make us code slower? And what if, by deploying AI without fundamentals, we are not accelerating progress, but only amplifying a death spiral that is already killing people? Multiple incidents ended in EV crashes this year. 14 billion burned out at Volkswagen. 70,000 vehicles recalled in BMW, all because we believed speed matters more than fundamentals. Today, I am bringing you the data, the involution, the mathematics, and the catastrophe unfolding right now in the most process-heavy, standard-driven industry on earth, automotive. The pinnacle example of what happens when an entire industry chases speed without fundamentals, and why software in the AI era must course correct before we all spiral out of control. Welcome to The Forge. This is episode 80. Hello, digital warriors, and welcome back to The Forge. If you have been following episode 78 and 79, you know we have been building a case. In episode 78, we relieved the 1% problem. After researching 52 unicorns companies and interviewing in the last year more than 130 investors and CEOs, I discovered with them that the talent scarcity is the bottleneck to real AI adoption. Not technology, not capital, talent. Why? Because less than 1% of the candidates have both the technical and social skill to build exceptional software. And that is the foundation, because in episode 79, we went deeper into behavioral engineering and on the software craftsmanship dojo. I've shown you how the martial art principles that I apply in my dojo are applicable to software teams, how repetition builds instincts and atomic habits, how fundamentals come before frameworks, and how you can not skip from white belt to black belt in the snap of a finger. Today we connect all the dots. Today we go and trace the evolution from waterfall through Agile, DevOps, and now AI. Because, as I promised you, today is the day with the hard data. Why? Because I want to showcase you why the AI productivity myth is mathematically impossible. Yes, you heard right. Mathematically impossible. And we are going to prove that without the fundamentals, AI doesn't accelerate excellence. It's only amplify disasters with a predictability of 100%. This is the most data-heavy episode I have ever produced. I've spent weeks in research to prepare this episode. I am bringing you peer-reviewed studies, industrial reports, and case studies that will make your blood run cold. So let's start with the evolution of coding, the real bottleneck. In the 90s, I started to develop professionally my first program, my first piece of software that went in production. At that time was Waterfall, but Waterfall that everybody blame of was studied since long time before the 90s, from the 70s, and then in the 80s. The most controversial model was the Kokomo from Barry Boehm, and it came out that roughly the 75% of the time of a developer was actually development. And so 25% was something else. So the first shocking awareness moment that the industry had at that time was that developers were paid to do a job that in reality they were doing only for 75% of the time. It's like you go to your hairdresser and then instead of trimming your hairs, yeah, sorry, I don't have this problem. So let's say I go to the barber and instead of paying my barber to trimming my beard, he is spending 25% of the time talking, but I have to pay him for 100% of the time. If I go to my physiotherapist, is not spending the 100% of the session doing the massage, but 25 talking with a coffee. So you start to see how the industry start to develop this moment where, okay, I feel that something is not going in the right direction because why my developers are not building code 100%? If you are in a manufacturer lane, you go and tight your nuts with your torque wrench for 100% of the time, to a point that you have even to synchronize with the others when you want to go for a biological call. So you can imagine accepting that 25% of the time was spent in something else was kind of a shocking moment for the industry. An industry that then started to challenge this hypothesis of 75% of the time is spent coding. Also because the time spent coding wasn't only coding. As you see from the picture, 62% of the time was spent from a developer point of view in actual coding, and the remaining 30% they were doing validation of the code, so integration test. In the later stages, we have two more research in the 94 Perry and in 2006 Latosa, where they were challenging this hypothesis of 75%. And they arrive to a conclusion that coding was roughly between 50% of developers' time. So let's say that only 50% of the time was actual coding. And this was the waterfall time, where developers were really focused only in coding. Then, as we all know, in the early 2000s came out Agile. The 2001 was signed the Agile Manifesto, and the mantra was now, not anymore process, but individuals and interaction. Keep focus on this word, interaction, over processes and tools. Beautiful philosophy, necessary evolution for sure, but it is what happened. And I lived here to this. So this is not theory. This is observation from the field, from who was doing Agile coaching and Agile since almost 24 years ago. Agile indeed increase collaboration, indeed increase the interaction between people in a team. But this came with a cost of time consuming. And let me show you where. Every day you have the stand-ups, okay? If you do it by the book, 15 minutes. Then every sprint, you have to do the sprint planning. Roughly in a sprint of 2 weeks, 2 hours, see. Then you have to do the sprint review. That in a sprint of 2 weeks are typically between 1 and maybe even 2 hours if you need to discuss with your customer product owner about the feedback of what you just released. Then you have the most intriguing part, because at the end of every sprint you are doing the retrospective, and if the team has some social tension, you don't have the canonical 1-2 hours spent every 2 weeks in discussion. You have maybe even half a day spent in mitigating the social friction. So all this was amazing, was good, but was with a cost, the cost of our time. So in 2011, we start to have a intriguing new research, a research from Gonzalez. The research was called Collaboration, Information Seeking and Communication. This was an intriguing study where was put an emphasis about how much collaboration is the overhead of developers' working time. Now sit on your chair, fasten the belt, because you will get shocked. If you got shocked before when was 75% of the time coding and then refined to 50, now this research showcased that due to the agile introduction, the time spent coding for developers was only 9%. Yes, you heard correctly, 9% of their time, while the remaining time was split equally almost between 45% of the time in collaboration activity, the famous interaction, and then a shocking and surprising 32% on information seeking. One of the biggest issue, or probably even curses, of Agile by Scrum when you start to have a mechanical product owner or a robotic product management, where you have a role, product owner, and a tool, Jira or whatsoever, that are handling the backlog with user stories that are never ready before the development. This is the course of Agile when you use frameworks by the book. And as you see, moved the development portion of a developers from the hypothetical 75% during the waterfall days to 9. And the picture shows you exactly this drama. A drama that, as you can imagine, is a shocking one. Imagine to be a leader of a company that is building software. And then you realize that the people that are that you are paying 100% of their time to develop software, they're developing software only 10%. This is a point of view that a lot of leaders, they are not getting even today. But let me move fast forward to the DevOps day, because after the 2010, we had the DevOps revolution. So we said, okay, let's put Dev and Ops together and let them destroy the silos. So in theory, the overhead in interaction and communication should be lower, which are the latest data. Let's take the research from Microsoft. Today was a good day, the life of a software developer. This research was conducted at the beginning in 2019 and then refined as a follow-up in 2024. And the research at the beginning, the initial one, was tracking almost 6,000 developers over 4 months. The results that they got are shocking because they confirm that the 9% of the previous research was not that untrue. Because indeed the developers, they were spending 15%. That it means in a day less than 90 minutes. And in the research then, they try to expand this coding activity to the heavy development related activity like debugging, testing, DevOps, pipelines, and all the stuff that are related around the DevOps mindset. With this, they arrive to a more promising 47% of the day developing, not coding, developing. This then was refined in 2024 with a follow-up where Microsoft took under research 480, almost 500 developers, if I remember. And what they found was that time for coding dropped further to just 11-12%, where a lot of time was consumed by communication and meetings. As you can understand, we move from 75% of time coding during the waterfall to DevOps, roughly, let's say 10%. These are the research. Honestly, as somebody that is on the field from roughly 30 years, and somebody that lived through waterfall, root, agile, DevOps, and now AI, I can confirm it. For the last year, as you know, I have done the research with investor, but also I have continued my research within the dojos we have with the multiple customer. and we are tracking the coding time of all our students using the Pomodoro technique. And what we discover in a typical week working in a corporation environment with all the related noise that we will talk later, all the meetings, all the Slack messages, Teams, phone calls, email, all the, hey buddy, can you come for a quick question? Hey pal, do you come for a coffee? They got on average between 2 to 4 Pomodoro of real coding a day. That is actual focus time coding. It means roughly 1 to maximum 2 hours a day in average in a week of coding. And honestly, when I go in such environments to collaborate with customer, despite I am really disciplined, despite I have all my behavioral engineering and neuroscience principle applied of years of training that keeps me really focused on what I do, I have tough time to achieve the same level of performance I'm able to achieve in my own company, confirming that somebody that is not master on neuroscience and a master in discipline is really too close to the temptation to achieve so little development of a day because the environmental noise is too unsustainable. As you can understand, this is drama because we are exposing developers to social interferences and social noise that are making them touching the code for really only 10% of the day. And if we start to look at the big picture, probably we can say that they are touching code-related activity, as we saw from the Microsoft research, between 30, 35, maybe if you are very lucky, 40% of the time. But from the data that I am observing, roughly the time a developer is able to develop, not code, develop, is roughly 30% of their time. If we want to check my perception, let's go to somebody that did the same research and discovery or the same journey. And I'm talking about Joel Spolky, the co-founder of Stack Overflow. In his research Fire and Motion of 2002, directly observed when he was developing the platform that his average productivity was between 2 or 3 hours a day for productive coding. Not my numbers, his number, his observation from running one of the most successful developer platforms on earth. If we want to go even further, what also is intriguing is correlating the time a developer can be focused with the neuroscience principle and research. Because if I'm looking at the Cole Newport research about deep work rules for focus success in distracted world, one element that is coming from this research is that most people have about 4 hours of deep work capacity per day. And that is a biological limit that you need to retrain in a very specific way to being able to go in more time. So as you see, we have a lot of related issues of the real root cause that is moving the developers into a field where the perception from a company is I hire you to develop software for 100% of the time. The reality is, if we are lucky, they are capable to produce code in maximum 30% of their working day. And on top of this, let's be real. What happened in 2020? The pandemic with the COVID, and everybody went remote. Time is showing us that being remote got is pro and is cons. Pro, all this environmental noise is gone. We are not anymore in the office. We are in the comfort of our home. We don't have anymore the commuting. We have less risk to get sick, to get car accident. We have less risk to get fellas that are tapping on our shoulder to get coffee or a fast question. And we don't have the open office chaos that is typically in all the software venue. People, in theory, had the opportunity to work more in a focus bubble. So trying to achieve the average 4 hours of focus a day of a normal human being. But also it got the cons, because on some things instead, remote working has shown how it went worse, because the communication overhead exploded. Now we have a lot of async coordination, because everybody needs to be in contact with others. And if you don't have a setup like a remote office, what typically happens? Meeting over meeting. What in medical term became a new word, a new term, that is Zoom fatigue. And as we understood, remote work enhanced focus for those who knew how to use it. But for the remaining that, again, they lack fundamentals, it worsened communication and all the dysfunctions around a social environment with anti-patterns of broken communication and collaboration, returning to the first value of the Agile Manifesto of people and interaction. If these people are not able to interact between each other in a functional way, all this interaction showcase its limits. So as you see, so far, all these limits in missing fundamentals are revealing us how, from the old days that everybody blamed me for the first of waterfall, to the today de facto reality of DevOps, if you lack fundamentals, the communication overhead, even in a small team of 8, 10 individuals, will kill you. And this is the intriguing part. What do I mean with kill you? Not physically, of course, because this is a crime, but it's something more subtle, something more silent, something that is acting in the shadow. And this, the cognitive catastrophe of all these developers that are experiencing disengagement and burnout. A lot of people are time to time saying in a harsh way they don't know how to work. Maybe nobody told them how to work. Maybe the social environment is so noisy that even if you know how to work, you are always on the edge of exploding. Or maybe because we are ignoring as leaders some neuroscience principle that will help us to understand better what is happening in our companies. And what I'm talking about, guys, is that all these considerations, they have to be reframed with the silent killer of developer productivity. That is a genetic limit that we have that in medical terms is called mind wandering. And mind wandering has multiple research related to this, but at the end, the most renowned is the research and analysis by Randall, Oswald, and Bayer in the Psychological Bulletin of 2014, if I remember, where they were studying and correlating the study of people with mind wandering and showcasing how mind wandering is by design occurring in a normal human being between 30 to 50% of the time during their cognitive task. It means, in other terms, that between 30 and 50% of the time that I am doing something with focus, so I am deliberating, concentrating myself in a focus bubble, trying to achieve a task, my brain, for half of a time, is somewhere, wondering of maybe my motorbikes, what my wife or my daughter, they told me 5 minutes before starting, neighbor, the office that is pinging me from the HR department, my manager that wants to talk to me, everything that is a trigger for my brain to do mind wandering is there silently in ambush mode to try to get the time to think about. And the more stressed you are, from what I am observed, the more prone to time wandering your brain becomes. And this theory is also something that cannot be changed so easily. because it's a design flow of us as human beings. And if stress and other factors can influence it, let's return to the remote working. What we got from the remote working, what we got from the agile time. We have more Slack, more Teams, more email, more phone calls, more social network, more open office, endless meeting without agendas. And did we train our employees or people for being aware of mind wandering? Did we put a system in place that is capable to help and prevent such a disaster? And now is the beauty. We didn't. And the beauty, in a sarcastic way, means that in top of this flow by design, we have another toll to pay, another tax, another behavior tax, as I like to call it. And this, the multitasking. I love multitasking because everybody believes that they can do multitasking. So let's say that, yes, you're right. Everybody is capable to do multitasking. I see a lot of people noting, yeah, I can do this and that. What the research is saying, the research, the most trusted one that I use all the time is a research back then in 2001 from Meyer, Evans, and Rubinstein in the Journal of Experimental Psychology. And they were discussing about human perception and performance. And what they were showcasing in the research is that multitasking, yes, your beloved multitasking, is affecting your productivity by approximately 40%. Yes, 40% less productive. And if you don't trust this research, you can search other research, but at the end, the fact is so well known to neuropsychologists and neuroscience experts that even the American Psychology Association had to confirm that multitasking affects productivity by up 40% due to mental block created by repetitive switching tasks. And this is intriguing. You see, multitasking, the guy that is sending you a message, the PO that is poking on your shoulder to have a fast coffee chat to discuss about the latest user story. This is a killer, a silent killer, even before people step into the office. And to get things even more attractive and intriguing, let's put another great book here. Brain Rules, 2005, 8, I guess, from John Medina. In the book, John is showcasing how multitasker not only take 50% longer to accomplish a single task, but they also make up to 50% more errors. So we are slower, and what we do is even 50% more error prone. And then you blame them because there is a bug in production. But then let me show you another intriguing aspect of neuroscience, another research that is showcasing, okay, let's say we have all this social noise, this interruption, this multitasking, and I need to switch between task A to task B, C, and then finally I can return to my original main goal of the day, developing code. How much it will be the cost of returning in a focus to create good quality software? Gloria Mark, she is a researcher at the University of California, Irvine, and she published in 2000, I guess was the same year of John Medina book, if I remember, one intriguing research, the cost of interrupted work, more speed and stress. And the research was intrigued because she was able to find that for a developer, regaining focus on the task that was interrupted by multitasking or social noise requires roughly 23 minutes and 15 seconds to being able to regain full focus. You can imagine how heavy for your cognitive stress these research are all about. But I see you are not seeing the pictures. So let's say in the middle we have our cognitive power, 100%. But we understood that by design we are prone of mind wandering. The more we are stressed, the more we live in a noisy social environment, the more the cognitive power will be depleted by design. And so let's say 50% of our cognitive power is gone. Then we are working in an environment where we need to do a lot of multitasking. Multitasking, we understood, is depleting 40% cognitive power, and so 30% is a remaining cognitive power when we step into the office, as we understood from the research, 50% more error-prone probability. So we are working with 30% of our brain, producing 50% more bug than what it should, and we are in an environment that is continuously distracting us. That requires to wait 23 minutes and 15 seconds to being able to finally focus full of this 30% of the cognitive power that we have on what we were doing. As you understand, this is a social drama, is a generational drama that nobody is talking about. Everybody is focused in disengagement, burnout, that are the symptoms. But the real root cause is because these people beside the soccer table, the coffee area, and whatever your dev experience team will design to make their life more enjoyable, are working in an environment that doesn't help them to focus. We have a lot of meetings due to agility that are consuming a lot of hours, a lot of dysfunction due to implementing Scrum without proper product management that is creating the temptation to have sprints that are designed always with user stories that are not ready for development, that are causing a lot of intersecting people to gain the knowledge to being able to complete your task. And this is by design creating social interferences that are making every developer in a probability to being focused when they are working that is almost zero. So the best that we can do is working in an environment where we are capable trying to put 100% of our cognitive power on the table to extract only 30. Then we cannot blame them that they are experiencing their mental fatigue. We have destroyed them even before start coding. And now let's move to today of AI era, because the AI era comes as the perfect storm. Because now that we understood that the bottleneck is not coding, that the bottleneck is somewhere else, that developers are operating at 30% of their cognitive capacity, that the social environment is so noisy and full of temptation, that there are continuous interruptions, that we are exposing them to very tough mental fatigue, that only if they are very lucky, they are able to develop only 30% of their time. We are asking them to go faster because we have provided you the AI coding tools. Now, if I drive my car during night with only 30% of my cognitive power switch on, how likely I will go in trouble with a car accident? Very high. And can we blame them? No, because you have put a developer to do a work increasing the speed instead of fixing all the anti-patterns that are destroying him even before the AI coding tool. But let's say that my analysis is not correct, that we need more data. And so let's bring more data because there are plenty of research. I have cataloged more than 50 research and I'm cherry picking only a few. For instance, Georgetown, they have done a study and 48% of AI generated code contains security vulnerabilities. Up-level research shows that 41% increase in bug were using AI coding assistant. Git Clear, they are showcasing that code churn doubled, technical debt accumulating 4 times faster. The DORA research, the old one, 2024, reported between almost 40,000 professionals that are using in their organization AI the following symptoms: 7.2% reduction in delivery stability, 1.5 reduction in throughput, increased technical debt. All of them, they are experiencing worsening of their situation with AI code assistant. But here is the critical finding. Now we start to understand why this is happening. Junior developers and those lacking fundamentals, even between seniors, have a tendency to accept AI code suggestion blindly. Linear B analysis showcased that junior developer can ship features faster than ever, but when something breaks, they are completely lost. They don't know even where to start to find a bug. They don't even know how to start the debugger. And why I'm talking about debugger if I am a TDD coach? Because if you don't know how to create TDD, AI won't create TDD for you. We create simply code that is not working. They arrived to a point that they recommended Copilot-free Fridays to prevent what they call skill atrophy. Think about that. We need AI-free days to prevent developers from forgetting how to code. It's like we are saying that we need to take a day to do hiking in the woods because we are forgetting how to walk. And there is the vicious loop as you start to see. We have low cognitive power due to mind wandering and multitasking. Then we have AI-generated code quickly in a low-focus environment. We have junior developers that are accepting these suggestions without understanding them. This is creating more bugs shipped to production, more tickets created by the user that is pissed, and for sure, your customer satisfaction is going down. This is with an increase of calls to the support from pissed users that are for sure not collaborative enough to provide you all the information that you need to fix the bug as soon as possible. So this is rising the maintenance burden. And we have more code to review. And these review are, as it seems from all the data, rising the whole effort of a developer coding time. So roughly 1/3 of their time now is code review. More meetings to discuss the problems that should be avoided in first instance instead of accepting suggestion of code that is not the right one. More social friction, because if there is a ticket and everybody is pissed as a user, these are as a repercussion inside the team with storming, and less time available actually to code. And this is worsening every loop, to a point that my dear friend Adam Tornil with his company CodeScene, they've created a new report where they've designed a new word that is, for me, genius. That is refactoring and refactoring. And the refactoring is when you refactor the code without changing the behavior of your code in order to make it cleaner, faster, more secure, better. But the code, the program itself, doesn't change anything in its behavior. Refactoring, instead, is something that happens in the code that change its behavior. And from what it seems, AI, especially in AI agents uncontrolled and trust blindly, are increasing the refactoring to levels that are moving and decreasing the percentage of potential development time from the hypothetical best scenario that we saw in Microsoft of 47% if we put all together the coding, debugging, testing, CI/CD and DevOps stuff to something that starts to be really close to 10%. And we are watching it happening now in real time when I am talking, guys. When you will see this podcast release, this is the situation on the field in your companies. And maybe you don't have a software team. Maybe you are saying or thinking, Mike, you are an old coach that is trying to showcase how the world should move. But as I got in a funny feedback, we are all dysfunctional. So you are telling us that we have to be less dysfunctional. No, I agree with you. Yes, we are dysfunctional by design. We are doing mind wandering by design, but with behavioral engineering and proper training, proper awareness, we can start to turn around the ship. And if we don't cross correct what we are doing, what will unfold in the following years will be a social disaster that everybody will have regret for not having fixed it when it was still possible today. And what I'm talking about, and I want to show you now, is a parallel. Because I understood from the last episode that the parallels are really powerful to showcase you complex concept with simple examples. The parallel is the automotive industry, the most process-heavy, standard-driven industry on Earth, probably even more than healthcare. You have tons of ISO. You have the ASPICE for software process improvement. You have the ISO 26262 for functional safety. You have, I don't know if I counted right, more than 250 work products across 60 processes. Something that seems to be the pinnacle of the Roman emperor bureaucracy in the Asterix and the 12 challenges. And yet, despite all this process bureaucracy to ensure quality and safety, what we have? Tesla Autopilot on EV, certified yes, certified that yes. Why? Software system related to drive assistant and autopilot. The latest development in Xiaomi 7 EV, certified that yes. Why? Driver assistant. Then we have the old Toyota with the throttle control issue, and we have certified that. Then we have a lot of other companies like GM, Ford, and many others that we had again certified that, typically related to braking or other controls failure in their software systems. As a conclusion, as you see, what we believe is a safe industry due to all the standard, what we believe and perceive is we jump on our car and we are safe inside it, is a fatality due to the automotive software failure. Failures that are documented in both EVs and traditional cars, particularly because vehicles are increasing their reliance on software for safety critical systems like braking, throttle, and drive assistant. And the cases that I have mentioned above, they are showing us, which is despite all this regulatory scrutiny and the heavy process-oriented industry, what is the biggest flaw or the biggest glitch of this industry? That is software. And we can discuss about the latest for that on the Xiaomi SU7, but I will skip it. What instead I won't skip is the bridge from what we start to discuss in episode 79 in the blog post about the disaster of Porsche with their Taycan and all vehicles recalled for software issues. Because suddenly they were completely without power while they're driving. And this is the tip of the iceberg of the Volkswagen disaster. The Volkswagen group that I wrote in episode, I guess was 25, with a catastrophe when they decided to do two spin-off of their company, one for the battery development and the other for the software. The one for the software was called Cariad. And Cariad by itself costed roughly 20 billions in damages because Cariad wasn't able to deliver the software platform for releasing the new electric vehicle, got a lot of delays on all the brands of the group, starting from Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, Porsche. All the companies between the Volkswagen Group umbrella, they start to have issues in delivering the new models. And it arrived to a point that Germany has to close 2 factories for the first time ever. And this is a demonstration with the Porsche that The electric vehicle is a change in the business model of the old automotive that is pushing them to showcase how they are capable to move and step into the new field of not anymore automotives, but almost computers on four wheels. And a lot of people will think probably, okay, Mike, but it's only the Volkswagen group. The others, they are doing fine. Nobody, because for instance, BMW that has a solid electric vehicle platform have to recall almost 71,000 electric vehicles because the motor was with software glitches that they were put in the system in shutdown when they were driving on the road. And it took them 4 years to identify the root cause. So not only Volkswagen, not only the European brands, but we saw it happening also for Tesla. We saw happening also for the China rising automotive industry. So as you see, the problem is the complexity of the systems, because modern vehicles they contain around 100 million lines of code from what it seems looking at the source code of a modern car. For context, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner was 14 million, the F-35 fighter jet 6 million line if I remember, Windows Vista, so an operative system, 50 million of line. High-end car deploy modern cars around 70 to 100 electronic control units deployed in your car. BMW Series 7, it use more than 150 modules all interconnected on a canvas. And here is the kicker, guys. Most automotive software is developed by tier 1 suppliers. So not even in the car manufacturer itself, suppliers who are under intense cost and time pressure. The same pressure, the same code faster mentality, the same lack of fundamentals. And now we are pushing with trillions of investment worldwide AI to the mix. As you understand, AI is not the problem. It's the dysfunctional environment that are not training the people for being resilient and ready for an AI adoption. And this is why we need to understand the claims from the market under the proper light. Because if we look at the MIT and McKinsey research from 2003 to today over around 100, 150 companies, they said and share the same belief. The companies with strong fundamentals, that for them fundamentals means workflow design, data governance, engineering practice, achieve almost 4 times the performance of companies without them when adopting AI. This is a big number. So companies that they have the right fundamentals, they are able with the proper AI adoption to achieve almost 4 times better performance than their competitors without the fundamentals. And this is intriguing because it shows that the difference is not in the tools, so AI as a tool, it is in the foundation beneath it in your organization. But what fundamentals means for me, fundamentals are the cornerstone of development in focus and time management, because we understood that by design, when a developer steps into the office, they have only 30% of cognitive power available. Then has to be proper technical practices, starting from the old test-driven development, where it's shown with multiple research that we have up to 90% defect reduction. And this is not theory. These are measurements that we can find in research. They are showing that test-driven development is the solution to create high-quality software. Then another foundation are social programming, where in social programming I put 2 pieces here: social code development and social code review. With social code development is pair programming and mob programming. Behavioral trick that destroys environmental noise. Because when you put two people or a whole team together working, trust me, people will have a tough time to disturb them and get them out of focus. So this part done in the proper way with the Pomodoro technique, with the notes, with the daily journal, plus the code review done in the right way are de facto reducing the defects to almost zero. To a point that pair and mob programming, they are reducing it to a speed of seconds since the code was written. So we don't have to go in CI/CD or in production. It's the pair and the mob that are recognizing the bug on the fly. And what is emerging is that companies that are not embracing the fundamentals properly, but are embracing only the tools, they are seeing a rise of time spent in doing code review that is alarming because it's directly correlated to burnout and disengagement. Another fundamental is small team. QSM research shows that team of 5 to 8 people are the optimal. As we know, the higher the number of people in a team, the higher the overhead of interaction. Remember the first Agile value, people and interactions. So the interaction is directly proportional to the people in a team. If we keep a team between 5 to 8 people, this is a team that has optimal interaction. Team 9 plus show exponential worse in productivity, but also an intriguing aspect, exponential growth from 3 to 8 of their cost, because the chore of interconnecting people has a cost in time, and if it's done not properly, the speed and the quality of the software, as we saw from the neuroscience principle, is going down in a death spiral. Then what we have is the DevOps mindset, or as you want to track it as a leader, the DORA metrics, where you should showcase your team a target to become a elite team, showcasing the behavior that they have to reach in being able to deploy multiple times a day with a time to recover that is around 1 hour and a chance of defect that is below 5%. And put this as a target so that they start to understand where they score in the ladder. Are they mid, high, or low performer? How much they took to release a new version, a sprint, a month, how much time they take in order to get an idea from or a problem from the customer and release the final product to the customer. As you see, the differences are not the speed of code, are the socio-technical practices that are shaping the behavior of these people, and then the social compounding of them in a team to a point that they try to achieve an amount of coding that is higher than 30% of dev's life. Because in an average team, when you deploy an AI tool in top of a dysfunctional team that is capable to develop only for 30% of the day, what do you expect? Even if we get 4 times more productivity in this little slice of 30%, how much is the gain? How much was the investment? So, as you see, this is a mathematical demonstration that trying to enhance the speed of coding without the mastery to code properly is not only trying only to enhance the speed of 30% of the time, but is also raising the probability that this speed will create a fatal incident. And so, for today, the data that I was looking to showcase you are providing the reply and awareness to start doing something different from tomorrow. Hopefully, to let you understand that you should measure the AI readiness of your people before losing them, before burning out them. You have spent and invest so much money in the companies you are working with as a leader that spending 5 minutes to think how I can measure it is not a waste of time. And I suggest you to go doing AI readiness check to check your people to understand their fundamentals, to score them with the DORA model, to score them with the DASA model, to see how they are grading in metrics that are well known from the industry. Of course, this will provide you a scattered picture that you are not able to compose all the pieces and find a reply, but at least you start to have an awareness about where you stand, an awareness that can help you to understand that if what you are asking to your people is the blood or something achievable. For today, so keep evolving and see you in episode 81. Bye. See you next week.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.